Some early signs of clarity at the quarterback position for the Cleveland Browns following day 4 of training camp. We'll talk about it coming up on the Locked On Browns podcast.
You are Locked On Browns, your daily Cleveland Browns podcast. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
What's up, Dog Pound? I'm Spencer German, your host of the Locked On Browns podcast, and proudly covering your Cleveland Browns each and every single day in the land and on the road. Day 4 of training camp gave us some early signs and early insight into where the quarterback competition stands. Plus, Shador Sanders isn't sweating where he stands on the depth chart right now. And is it time to start worrying about the offense in general? We'll get to all those things and more coming up on today's show. But first, I do want to remind you to find Locked On Browns wherever it is that you get your podcasts. And, of course, at the Locked On Browns YouTube channel. We provide you with Cleveland Browns content at Locked On Browns every week, Monday through Friday, guaranteed, with bonus content on some weekends like this very episode. So hit that subscribe button wherever it is that you get your podcasts, and make sure you jump on in the comment section here at the Locked On Browns YouTube channel so you can be part of the conversation. This is your team, so be part of it every single day. And I did think that day 4 of training camp did give us some early clarity, and it is still very, very early. And Kevin Stefanski hasn't made any final decisions yet on who the starting quarterback is going to be as to how they view this depth chart right now. And it's not even that I think this is not the most profound sort of finding here in general, because I think we already kind of had a sense of that this is where things were at already. And what I mean by that is a depth chart that looks like 1A and 1B being Joe Flacco and Kenny Pickett, Dylan Gabriel that next in line, and Shador Sanders being sort of the man bringing up the rear here in this quarterback depth chart right now. That's the way that they've sort of established the order of things going back to the spring. Shador Sanders remains the only guy who hasn't taken first-team reps. I've talked about that a number of times, and that continued on day 4. But I think where we started to see some real clarity or some real, get a sense of where things really stand and where they actually they've shown you some separation now, is that in a drill today, they did some modified 7-on-7s, which the modified 7-on-7s, as I've talked about before, how I classify that is basically like it's quarterback, receivers, and running backs against the other teams, linebackers and secondary. But what they've done now for the modified version of this is put some linemen up front, put some defensive linemen up front. They don't really do anything. They don't really go at each other. There's no pushing, there's no blocking, there's no blitzing, there's no rushing. They just kind of stand there to simulate that there's people in front of you, but they're not actually doing anything football related. And so I call that a modified 7-on-7. And they were doing that today on day 4. And it was Flacco, Pickett, and Gabriel all on one field together. They split the field. And Shador Sanders all by himself on the other field with a mix of 2s and 3s on that field while the 1s all kind of worked off on the other field. And I hope this is a situation where it's like, don't shoot the messenger, because I have been adamant that coming into camp, I said I thought Shador Sanders deserved those first-team reps. I thought he did so well in the spring that he obviously deserved a chance to sort of play with those guys. Still hasn't happened yet. He's played with the 2s a handful of times here at camp. I thought today, day 4, was actually his best day of camp so far. There were some inconsistencies the first couple of days. It happens. He's a rookie. He's getting adjusted. First training camp. I get all that. Today, I thought he had his best day. But there was sort of this sign of, okay, these 3 guys are off on this field working, and you're going to be kind of off over here with the 2s and 3s. And so it's just different sort of places where they're at in the eyes of the Browns and in the minds of the Browns. And so I think this sets the stage for come Monday, you're going to see these reps be really tightened up. And what I mean by that is like they're not going to probably split the field quite as much. First of all, it is full pads on Monday. Kevin Stefanski told us that today. It'll be their first day they can do full pads, and they're taking advantage of it. They will be in full pads when practice resumes on Monday. They have Sunday off. They'll be back at it Monday, and they'll be in full pads when they get back out on the field. And with that in mind, And they've talked about it. Like, it's not easy managing a 4-way quarterback competition, splitting the field off so they can do drills on different fields and all these different things. And there's only so many reps to go around in an hour to an hour and a half long practices that they've been running the last couple of days. So you have to find a way to be as economical as possible. And I think you got to remember what the point of this is. Like, yes, there is a quarterback competition going on here. Yes, we want to see what these rookies can do, obviously. We want to see if these guys can be developed, and you want to give them some leeway to do that. But Kevin Stefanski's job at this point is to, get ready for an NFL season. He has to get ready to field a football team that's going to play meaningful games in September, which is not that far away. We're about 40 or, a little over 40 days until we get to week 1. And go out there and see if he can put the best team out there to try to win football games on Sundays. That's his goal. And so with only a limited amount of time to do that, this was never going to be like all 4 get the same amount of reps. They all run with the ones from day 1 until the end of training camp or the end of the preseason. It was always going to have to sort of shorten a little bit where you're prioritizing the guys that you think are legitimately going to start. And in their minds, I think they view Kenny Pickett and Joe Flacco as the guys that have a better chance of starting. And it makes some sense of the veterans in this group. So that's the direction they're sort of trending. I think we saw the first signs of that today, even though we had sort of seen it already. I think today was the first indication of like, okay, we're starting to change some things here and the way that we manage these reps. And I do think that sets the tone, like I said, for Monday and throughout next week, as they tighten up these reps, it's going to be more of like the guys that we think have, the guys that we're trying to prioritize here to get these reps to get ready for the season. They're going to get the most of them with the ones, and there's going to be less on the table for maybe Dylan Gabriel at times, and obviously Shador Sanders, who I do think is lower on this depth chart right now. And to be clear, that doesn't mean Shador Sanders can't get any reps. So get some reps out on the field. There's also always a part of this that's mental reps. Not letting your mind go to rest. You just always kind of being back there, asking questions, going through the motions, seeing if you see the same thing that the quarterback that's out there is seeing. But that sort of feels like where it's trending. And Kevin Stefanski has hinted at that a little bit as well, that they'll slowly but surely sort of tighten things up and make sure that they're getting a football team and their quarterbacks, the ones that potentially start for this team, ready to play come week 1. And I also think, too, the other thing that I've noticed in the way that they've handled these quarterbacks, and specifically the rookie quarterbacks, because there are 2 of them, is that it's clear to me that they've put more on Dylan Gabriel's plate at this point than they have Shador Sanders with just the plays that they've run. With Shador, it has been a lot of easy stuff, and I don't mean that from a standpoint of he can't handle it. I think they are just trying to really help him develop along the way. It's been a lot of like slants and like short little speed outs and dumping the ball off on a check down. They've expanded the playbook a little bit for him. But I talked about that play the other day that Dylan Gabriel ran. It was a sort of fancy fool of defense type play. Not a trick. I wouldn't call it a trick play, but it was kind of like it was basically a boot to the left where the flow of the play, it's a levels concept. The receivers are all going to the left with him. And before he boots all the way around, he stops, looks back right, and the back end receiver ran like a post and then a corner, and he threw it up to. I haven't seen Shador get a play like that this entire camp. So I just think they believe that Dylan Gabriel is ready for more and is able to handle more at this juncture. They're assessing this situation day to day. They're assessing Shador Sanders day to day. And where they stand right now is that it's Flacco and Pickett. It's Gabriel who they think is a little more ready, and it's Shador who they're not giving up on. It doesn't mean they're giving up on him. It doesn't mean they're not going to give him opportunities and give him reps. But seeing that split today, where it was the 3 quarterbacks on one field and Shador on the other, I think provided us with at least some clarity that things might be changing here in the way that they handle these reps with the quarterbacks moving forward, and that they are prioritizing certain guys over others. And that's just the nature of the beast. It's a competition. And at some point you got to sort of whittle things down to get to your starter ahead of week 1 on September 7th. Speaking of Shador, though, we talked to him on Friday, and I've said it. He hasn't gotten any first team reps, but what's awesome about Shador is that he continues to have the right approach and mindset to all of this stuff, all the way that, like, where he finds himself on the depth chart right now. And I think it's awesome because it's what you want to hear from any rookie coming into this league. We'll play you a clip from that, and we'll talk about it coming up next on the Locked On Browns podcast. We've all been there, logging on early and waiting forever for concert tickets to go on sale, only to lose your spot in the Keen for a show that you've been dying to see. Live music should be about making memories, not about dealing with the stress of ticket buying. That's where Game Time comes in. Game Time makes getting concert tickets faster and easier than ever before. Prices actually drop as you get closer to showtime, and you can save up to 60% off their killer last-minute deal. Last year, I used Game Time for the first time. I bought tickets for my wife and I to go see Ohio State, Michigan. Results, yes, unfortunate. We wanted to see a win, but we do get to say we saw the eventual national champions in person, and with the transparent ticket pricing, their panoramic seat views, Game Time became my go-to app for buying tickets. Take the guesswork out of buying concerts and show tickets with Game Time. Download the Game Time app, create an account, and use code LOCKEDONNFL for $20 off your first purchase. Again, create an account, redeem code LOCKEDON NFL for $20 off. Download Game Time today. Last-minute tickets, lowest prices, guaranteed. Today's show is brought to you by Epicor. Every team knows the value of hard work and taking pride in what you build and practicing every detail to get the best results. But no one player, no matter how amazing, can do it all alone. Working together makes getting the win easier. At Epicor, the all-stars are the hardworking manufacturers and distributors who create and deliver the things we all need, from aerospace to electrical to medical devices. Epicor ERP solutions are created by industry experts to help make every day easier. Seeing your whole supply chain is easier. Managing logistics is easier. Responding to price changes is easier. From small businesses with big dreams to growing enterprises with a global vision, we'll equip you with the right tools to move forward, think ahead, and lead the way. Because as the clock ticks down, you need to make the most of every hardworking minute. Easier doesn't cut corners. Easier finds the lane. Discover your success with www.easierwithepicor.com. That's www.easierwithepicor.com. All right, so I talked about Shador Sanders and how there's maybe, there were some early signs that the other three quarterbacks are just a little bit more advanced in this competition than what he is right now in the eyes of the Cleveland Browns. But what I think is so great about Shador is that he has such a good head on his shoulders, and he has the right attitude and approach to everything that he's gone through the pre-draft process to coming here to Cleveland to now where he's in this competition and learning some things on the fly and trying to make the most of the opportunities that he's getting. And so he was asked specifically, like, why isn't he getting first team reps? And I thought his answer was really, really well articulated. Here's what he had to say.
I don't think that's not my place, to answer, to even be able to give the answer to that. I feel like it's not in my control. So I'm not even going to think about that or have that even in my thought process of why it is. Like, it's a lot of people that want to have the opportunity to be at this level, and I'm here, and I'm thankful to have the opportunity. So whenever that is, it is. But it doesn't make me feel down, or it doesn't make me feel left out or anything, because I know who I am as a person, I know who I am as an individual, and I know what I could bring to this team. So I can never feel less than, in any circumstance.
I think that's a great response. The fact that he highlights, like, listen, there's a lot of people who would kill to be in the opportunity that I'm in. And so I'm just taking it in stride. I'm just going out and competing. I'm going to be a sponge. I'm going to learn. I'm going to, listen to what the coaches are telling me. And that has been Shador since he got in this building, by the way. Like, I understand that there are a lot of people who think he should be starting week one, who think the Browns are doing him wrong. And that's you're right. It's within your right to have that opinion. But understanding how this team is from the beginning kind of gone about this process with Shador, they have clearly communicated to him, like, listen, we want to work with you. We want you to get there. We invested a pick in you. Like, we believe in you. Let's just go out and see what we can do. Let's go play football. And I'm sure they've specified some things that they believe they think he needs to get better at. I think out in the field, you've seen some times where he's been a little bit late with throws. Like, there's timing, there's rhythm, there's things that just are different in the NFL than any other level of college of football that you play, where you just got to get up to speed on some certain things, especially when it comes to the speed of the game. And so, no matter what it's been, though, he has not come in at all and acted like he should have the starting job, or that it's just going to be handed to him. because he's Shador Sanders or whatever. Like, that's never been his attitude this entire time. I think those comments speak to that. I think that speaks to a guy who's happy with the opportunity. And frankly, and again, he said it, like, I can't control where the coaches feel I'm at, or, the situations they put me in. I just go out and I play. And what's brilliant about that part of it too for Shador is that I've seen a guy, like, even just today after practice, he was the last guy in the field throwing to one of the lower on the depth chart guy wide receivers throughout, just doing like a little extra work. We've seen the videos of him during the 5 weeks leading up to training camp, working out at local high schools and trying to go that extra mile and put in that extra work. Like, the one thing that is abundantly clear about Shador Sanders is that he hasn't acted even an iota like he's some like privileged person coming in here who, it should just be handed the keys to the Corvette by the Cleveland Browns. Like, not at all. He has come in ready to learn. He has come in ready to work hard. He's come in and been a good teammate, frankly, from all accounts of what other people have said about being around him and working with him and all those different things. And that's the best part about him as a whole, is he has the right approach. He's taken the right attitude. He's brought the right attitude into the NFL and into this experience, and he's taken it all in stride. Like, he understands it's year one. He understands that he can grow and get even better than he was at the college level. And I think he's trying to take what he's being told and learn and see where it sort of ends up here in year one. It feels very unlikely, and I've said this before, it's probably going to be an uphill battle based on where the Browns have him on the depth chart for him to climb to the top and win the job. We still have preseason games. I am fascinated to see what he does in the preseason when, the bullets are flying, there's the speeds intensified. Yes, it'll be against backup players, sure. But those are like, that's why putting the pads on Monday is such an important time of the training camp schedule, because that's where you really start to find out like what guys are made of, who's afraid to get hit, who's not, all those different things. And so with Shador, like, he's going to have a chance to show what he can do on that stage once the pads come on, but also on the preseason stage. And if he balls out, like, there's a chance he makes them, rethink the step chart a little bit, but he's got to go do it. And I think he understands that. I think he knows that. He's spoken like he knows that. And he's just trying to do everything in his power to get better, keep working, put in the effort. And the payoff, hopefully for him, is that at some point this season, he is starting for the Cleveland Browns. I just don't think it's going to be week one, because, again, I told you, like, day 4, you had the 3 quarterbacks on one field, you had him on his own. They are signaling to everybody that right now he's the third guy, theoretically, because I'm envisioning they get rid of somebody on the depth chart. And the other guys, they just think are a little bit more ahead, and they're and in this competition, in this race for the starting job. And so we'll see what they do next week when the pads are on. We'll see what preseason brings and those opportunities for somebody like Shador and even somebody like Dylan Gabriel, but all these quarterbacks. But even if he doesn't start week one, I do think like there's a future for this kid in this league. And I do think that he's going to play at some point. And I've said that. And frankly, as I'll continue to reiterate as well, this is it's a weird year for the Browns. They're in this middle ground of trying to win now while also getting young and rebuilding and sort of on the fly, right? That's the way we all kind of view this season, I think. You owe it to yourself, especially with 2 first-round picks next year that theoretically you could use on a quarterback, right? That's I think the sort of master plan we're all envisioning maybe is going on here. Like, you owe it to yourself to see what you have in both these rookies out in the field on Sundays, because once you put the pads on and you're playing games, that's where everything changes. And Shador, maybe he thrives in that environment even more than he does at practice. And you see something. Maybe even Dylan, you see somebody who thrives more in that environment than he does in the field. Because frankly, like even today, like day 4, Dylan had a pretty inconsistent day. He had a touchdown pass in red zone work, and it was a really good throw, but he was inconsistent. He throws the ball high quite a bit just because of the angles and like him knowing he has to get the ball over the offensive line. Like there's some inconsistencies in his game too. There's even some inconsistencies in Kenny Pickett's game. We know that. We saw him in Pittsburgh. We know what that sort of looks like. But all these guys had moments on, including Shador, who had a touchdown in 11 on 11s, best play of the day. I put it in my piece that I wrote. Best play of the day, Luke Floria doing sort of like a post all the way across the field, and Shador navigated the pocket well and threw a nice ball to him for a touchdown as he caught it and turned it upfield for the score. But like he had a touchdown there and a great play when he was on that field on his own in the modified 7-on-7s. He threw 2 more touchdowns on back-to-back plays. And, Gabriel had one, Pickett had one, maybe 2, Flacco had one, and he almost had a second one to Jerry Jeudy. So they all had moments on Saturday. And that was encouraging. But yeah, like it's sort of, it's just about continuing to do the right things and make the right plays and go out there and see what you can do and make the most of your reps. And I think that's the exact approach, especially based on those comments I played, that Shador is taking. He's taking every rep in stride. He's trying to make the most of it, and he's just trying to make a name for himself and compete. And that was another quote, by the way, that he had, was saying, like, listen, I think everyone out here right now, if you're not competing on some level, you're doing it wrong. So it's not lost on him that he is in a competition, despite where he's at and despite the reps he's getting, and he's not going to let it discourage him, which is the best thing you want to hear about a rookie coming in who's trying to earn a starting job in the NFL. Speaking of the quarterbacks, and maybe more specifically the offense, it's been a couple bad days in a row for the offense. They did score some touchdowns on Saturday. That's the good news. But the defense still looks dominant. Is it just how camp goes early on, or is this time for some concern as far as the offense is concerned? We'll talk about it coming up next on the Locked On Browns podcast. This episode is presented by Yahoo Fantasy. Football is nearly back. We're in the middle of training camp right now, which means fantasy football is back. Fire up your group chat, get your draft board ready, and buckle up for a season filled with breakouts, busts, and all the overreactions we live for. All the things you love about fantasy football can be found at Yahoo Fantasy. Of the handful of leagues that I'm in, my favorite one, hands down, is the league that's hosted via Yahoo Fantasy. This has been my longest standing league. It helps that the people in it are hyper-competitive and the smack talk is elite. But the hosting platform can often make or break your fantasy league and your fantasy football experience. The people at Yahoo, they've mastered it. My friends and I are having a lot of fun playing Yahoo Fantasy. You should too, whether you're a first-timer or you're a veteran joining your 1 millionth league, which is a little crazy. But if that's you want to do it at Yahoo. To celebrate 28 years of fantasy greatness, Yahoo Fantasy is dropping 28 big new features over 28 days, giving you more ways to play, more ways to draft, and more ways to win. It all begins on August 4th. So stay tuned and get started by creating or joining a Yahoo Fantasy League at yahoofantasy.com/LockedOnNFL. That's yahoofantasy.com/LockedOnNFL. Let's make this fantasy season the best one yet. All right, so I did mention that all the quarterbacks had moments at practice on Saturday. I think the offense in general looked like it finally had some life here at camp. First 3 days were rough for the offense. And listen, that is a general trend when it comes to this time of year. Think about it. You start training camp, defenses get to just kind of go out there, read and react to the ball. They just go out there and make plays. That's all they do. Offense, they're still working out some kinks. They're figuring out, like, can this guy play in the slot, and does he know what his route's supposed to be? Where you want to go with the football. Quarterbacks are, they're in the playbook, and they're making sure that they understand everything that's kind of being thrown at them. There's a lot more learning that's going on the offensive side of the ball than the defensive side of the ball, which is especially Jim Schwartz, where he tries to really simplify things and just like let guys read and react. And so that's a common thing that happens this time of year. But what I'm trying to decipher right now about training camp is whether or not that's the phase we're in, where it's just, hey, it's early. Let's not freak out. Defenses are always ahead of offense this time of year. Or if we really do need to be concerned about this offense and the lack of scoring that's going on, the lack of ability to sort of like move the ball at times that's going on. And I do think it's a little bit of both here. I'm taking a little bit out of bucket A and I'm taking a little bit out of bucket B. And the reason I say that is this. Yes, there's 100% truth to the idea that defenses are always ahead of offenses this time of year. And so I think some of that is coming out of the field. It was good to see, red zone drills, for example, are supposed to be about, we got these plays in the red zone that we're going to run. You're supposed to finish those with touchdowns. That's supposed to be a drill during training camp where you're seeing some points put on the board. Yesterday, there was none. There was one. I apologize. There was one on Friday. Saturday, there was a touchdown for everybody. And I do want to clarify, because in my quick post-practice recap, I said Gabriel didn't score a touchdown. I need to amend that, strike it. Gabriel did score a touchdown. He threw one to DeAndre Carter on an out route. It was a really good ball. And so I want to apologize to Dylan Gabriel for getting that one wrong. My notes were all jumbled in my head, and I misunderstood who was in which session. But yes, he did throw a touchdown. He had one. Flacco had one. He almost had two to Jerry Jeudy in the back of the end zone on red zone. Kenny Pickett had one on one of his best throws of the day. Zipped it in to Blake Whiteheart, kind of crossing the end zone with tight coverage on him. It was a good ball. Shador obviously had the one in the full field 11 on 11s, and then in red zone on his own field, he had two. So everybody scored. It was good to finally see some touchdowns being scored, some points being put up. But I do think in general, like, this offense is just missing something. And I think it's really a couple things. Running back position, they constantly rotate these guys. I think you've seen some nice things from Dylan Sampson for what it's worth. I think Pierre Strong remains one of these guys that's like, he just is steady. You know what you're kind of getting in him. He might end up making this roster for special teams prowess as well. But, you know, you feel like he's kind of like this back of the depth chart type guy anyway. But we haven't seen Jerome Ford yet, because he's been dealing with an undisclosed minor injury. And so he's missed all these first 4 days. Maybe Sunday off will help him get out there for Monday with full pads. We'll see. But we haven't seen Jerome Ford yet. And that was supposed to be sort of like the fallback plan with the whole Quinshon Judkins legal situation going on, because we knew we weren't going to see him for a little while here. And who knows how long that situation sort of plays out and goes on. But while Quinshon's missing, and I know we were all excited about Quinshon, there's an element of the offense on the field, obviously. There's an element of the offense just with the run game in general that's missing, because Quinshon was supposed to provide that. But even Jerome Ford, who was kind of like okay, we don't have him, but we got this guy that we at least trust, right? He's not here. So I think the run game's been lacking something, because maybe not your best guys out there right now, even though I think I've seen some good things from Sampson. And then the other part of this too is just that there's just like a lack of explosiveness on this team right now, especially from the receiving core. Like, you have Jerry Jeudy. We know that. Jerry Judy's great. I've been one of the most adamant people banging the drum for him to be a top 100 player in this league. His peers voted him one. I voted him one in the Locked On one. If you can't tell, I'm still a little salty about this, that he wasn't on there for the Locked On top 100. But regardless, I digress. Like, Jeudy is the headline guy in the group, of course. But then behind him, I always like to use the example of the Island of Misfit Toys. Deontay Johnson right now is more of like a third teamer than even a second teamer. And so it's a lot of unproven guys, and you're just missing. There's something missing from this group. And I think that is playing itself out on the field where yes, the defense is playing well. The secondary, especially Martin Emerson broke up a pass today. You had Greg Newsome do it the day before. They're moving, Newsome outside, inside, doing some different things, mixing and matching. It seems like every time the quarterbacks are making those tight window throws, it's because there's a corner or a DB right on the hip of the receiver they're looking at. And that's been pretty prevalent the last couple of days in general. So yeah, like this defense is playing very, very good. And we all think the defense is going to be very, very good. But I think it's twofold, where the offense is also, I think, lacking something that really threatens that defense. And so right now, I think it's even more highlighted how the defense is just more equipped to stop them, because they're missing that X factor. Maybe they're missing that extra thing. And they're also sort of ahead of the curve right now with it being early in training camp. So I think the defense looks better because of on two fronts because of that. But I'm not going to say it's time for panic. I'm not going to say I think I would say I am a little bit concerned, but it's the first week of training camp. So there's time for this to get better. I'm not going to say panic just yet. And I think right now things still look better than they did a year ago, believe it or not, with this offense and the way that practice is going. They're at least getting plays off this year. I'll say that, because there was a lot of flags last year. Granted, we got to wait till joint practices to see if that's truly the case. But certainly some cause for concern, but I'm not full blown sky is falling. This offense is going to be no good just yet, because we need to see more. And the defense is supposed to be a pretty dominant group as a whole. So starting to, raise the eyebrows a little bit and be like, okay, but still a lot more that has to happen starting Monday when the team's been full pads. And that's when we can really evaluate, by the way. everything we've seen these first couple of days, all the stats, all that, throw it out. Full pads come on. It changes the game, and you really get a sense of like how things look, how guys are in those situations when things are all crazy around them. And so, yeah, this is where the stats really, really start to matter. It's going to be on Monday when they put the full pads on. Another episode down with your dog pound. Thank you for joining me as always to talk about your favorite football team. This is it for the week. Sunday is going to be an off day. We'll have an episode for you Monday, of course, as we get back to practice on Monday, and we're right back into it. Another busy week of training camp practices that we'll have covered for you here with the Locked On Browns podcast. So make sure you hit that subscribe button. Make Locked On Browns your first listen every day. And for your second listen, you can check out Locked On NFL Scouting or keep it local. Check out Locked On Cavs or Locked On Guardians. Thank you for being an everydayer at the Locked On Podcast Network. I'll talk to you again real soon, Cleveland. See ya.